The Rash told me everything I needed to know. I'm Dr. Alex Harper, and after 15 years of examining skin conditions in my dermatology practice, I can identify most diseases at a glance. But when my wife Erica returned from her 2-week work retreat with those distinctive red welts behind her ears, my medical expertise became a curse rather than a blessing. Those weren't just any welts. They were the signature marks of Grant Wallace's chronic dermatitis, a condition I'd treated him for 3 years ago. The pattern was unmistakable: small, raised bumps that formed when his skin came into prolonged contact with certain fabrics. Intimate contact. I stared at Erica across our breakfast table, watching her fidget with her coffee cup. She'd been different since returning from the retreat. Distant, guilty, and now marked with another man's disease. "How was the conference?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. "Oh, boring HR seminars, team-building exercises." She wouldn't meet my eyes. Grant was there, of course. As the regional manager, he had to attend all the sessions. Grant Wallace, 42 years old, married to Linda for 18 years, father of twin daughters, real estate mogul who owned half the commercial properties in our small New England town of Millbrook. And apparently my wife's lover. "Did you spend much time with Grant?" I asked casually, refilling my coffee. Erica's hand trembled slightly. "Not really. Just the usual work stuff. You know how these corporate things are." But I did know Grant's condition intimately. The dermatitis flared when his skin rubbed against certain synthetic materials for extended periods. Hotel sheets, for instance, the kind they used at corporate retreats. I excused myself and went to my home office, which connected directly to my medical practice. My hands shook as I pulled Grant's file from the cabinet. There it was, detailed photographs of his condition, treatment notes, and my own observations about triggers. The evidence was literally written on my wife's skin. My phone buzzed. A text from Pete Kowalski, my old college roommate, who now ran a security camera installation business in town. "Coffee later? Got some interesting gossip about your wife's boss." Pete always knew the town's secrets before anyone else. His security cameras were in half the businesses in Millbrook, and he had an uncanny ability to piece together information from seemingly unrelated sources. I texted back, "Absolutely. Murphy's Bar at 7. Littertrumsrien." The rest of the day crawled by. I saw patients, diagnosed conditions, prescribed treatments, but my mind kept returning to those telltale marks on Erica's neck. By evening, my suspicions had crystallized into cold certainty. Murphy's Bar sat on the edge of town, a dimly lit establishment where locals gathered to share gossip over cheap beer. Pete was already there when I arrived, nursing a Budweiser and grinning like he'd won the lottery. "Doc, you're not going to believe what I heard," he said, sliding a second beer across the table. "Try me. Your wife and Grant Wallace. They've been meeting at the Riverside Motel every Thursday for the past 2 months. My buddy Mike works maintenance there. Says they always request room 237, the one with the heart-shaped tub." The beer tasted like sawdust in my mouth. "You're sure?" "Mike's seen them together at least 8 times, always the same routine. Erica arrives first. Grant shows up 20 minutes later. They stay for exactly 2 hours. I thought about Erica's Thursday evening yoga classes that had started 3 months ago. The new lingerie I'd found in her dresser. The way she'd started showering immediately after coming home, claiming she needed to wash off the sweat from her workout. "There's more," Pete continued. "Linda Wallace was asking questions at the grocery store yesterday. Seems Grant's been making a lot of mysterious business trips lately. Same days your wife's been going to yoga." The pieces fell into place with sickening clarity. The retreat had been a cover story. Erica and Grant had spent 2 weeks together, probably at some romantic resort, while I'd worked double shifts to cover her absence from our shared practice management duties. "What are you going to do?" Pete asked. I stared into my beer, my mind already formulating a plan. "I'm going to diagnose this problem properly, and then I'm going to treat it." Pete raised an eyebrow. "Meaning?" "In dermatology, we have a saying. The best treatment for a rash is exposure to air and light. Time to let this infection breathe." I drove home through Millbrook's quiet streets, past the town square where tomorrow's farmers market would bring together half the community, past the high school where Erica and I had met 20 years ago, past Grant's real estate office with its gaudy neon sign proclaiming Wallace Properties, your dream home awaits. Erica was already asleep when I got home, or pretending to be. I stood in the doorway of our bedroom, watching her breathe, studying the woman I'd loved for 2 decades, the woman who'd betrayed me with a man whose skin condition I'd treated, whose medical history I knew better than his own wife did. Tomorrow, I would begin my treatment plan. But tonight, I had research to do. I spent hours in my office, reviewing Grant's complete medical file. His dermatitis wasn't just a minor skin condition. It was highly contagious under the right circumstances: prolonged skin contact, shared bedding, intimate situations. Erica had been exposed for weeks, maybe months. More importantly, Grant's condition responded to a very specific treatment protocol, one that required complete abstinence from the activities that caused flare-ups. No intimate contact, no shared fabrics, no secret rendezvous in hotel rooms. I opened my laptop and began typing detailed notes. If Erica wanted to play doctor with Grant Wallace, she was about to learn that some conditions require very aggressive treatment, and some treatments are more painful than the disease itself. The next morning, I watched Erica get ready for work with new eyes. She spent 45 minutes on her makeup, chose her most expensive blouse, and sprayed herself with the perfume I'd bought her for our anniversary. The perfume she claimed to save for special occasions. "Working late tonight?" I asked innocently. Probably. We're preparing for the quarterly review." She kissed my cheek, and I caught a whiff of the medicated cream I'd prescribed for Grant's condition. She'd been using his medication. After she left, I called my nurse, Jamie Rodriguez, into my office. Jamie had worked for me for 8 years and knew every patient's history by heart. "I need you to pull all of Grant Wallace's treatment records," I said, "and I want you to call his wife, Linda. Tell her we need to schedule a follow-up appointment for potential exposure to his dermatitis." Jamie's eyebrows shot up. "Exposure? But Grant's condition isn't usually contagious unless—" She stopped, understanding dawning in her eyes. Oh my, exactly. And Jamie, when you call Linda, make sure to mention that the condition can be transmitted through intimate contact. She should probably be tested." Jamie nodded grimly. "I'll call her this afternoon. Should I mention that we've seen evidence of the condition spreading to other contacts?" "Use your professional judgment. But make sure she understands the importance of identifying all potential exposures." By noon, the first phase of my treatment plan was in motion. Linda Wallace would learn about her husband's contagious condition and the need to trace his intimate contacts. In a town like Millbrook, that information would spread faster than Grant's dermatitis. I spent the lunch hour driving past the Riverside Motel. It was a shabby establishment on the outskirts of town, the kind of place that rented rooms by the hour and didn't ask questions. The parking lot was nearly empty, except for a few long-haul truckers and a familiar silver BMW. Grant's car. I parked across the street and waited. At 1:47 p.m., Erica's red Honda pulled into the lot. She parked 3 spaces away from the BMW, looked around nervously, then walked quickly to room 237. My hands gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. 22 years of marriage, and she was throwing it away for Thursday afternoon trysts with a man whose skin condition I'd documented in excruciating detail. I took out my phone and called Pete. "I need a favor," I said when he answered, "and I need it to look completely accidental." "What kind of favor?" "The kind that involves your security camera expertise and a certain motel that probably needs better surveillance." Pete chuckled. "Funny you should mention that. Mike was just telling me how the Riverside's been having problems with break-ins. Might need some professional security consultation." "How soon can you consult?" "Give me 2 hours. And Doc, you might want to have your lawyer on speed dial." I drove back to the office and threw myself into patient appointments, but my mind kept wandering to room 237. By 4 p.m., I couldn't concentrate anymore. I told Jamie I was leaving early and drove to the town square. Millbrook's downtown consisted of a cluster of shops around a small park, where locals gathered to gossip and share news. I bought a coffee from Maria's Cafe and sat on a bench, waiting. At 4:30, Mrs. Lavelle, the town's unofficial information hub, sat down beside me. "Dr. Harper, how lovely to see you. How's Erica? I haven't seen her at yoga class lately." Mrs. Lavelle lived across from the yoga studio and noticed everything. "She's been busy with work," I said carefully. "Lots of meetings with her regional manager." "Oh yes, Grant Wallace. Such a shame about his marriage troubles." My coffee cup paused halfway to my lips. Marriage troubles. Well, I probably shouldn't say anything, but Linda Wallace was at the grocery store yesterday, asking the pharmacist about treatments for skin conditions. She seemed quite upset. Kept mentioning something about needing to know who else might be infected. The first domino had fallen. Linda was already suspicious. Of course, these things have a way of working themselves out, Mrs. Lavelle continued. Truth always comes to light, doesn't it? Especially in a small town like ours. I finished my coffee and walked back to my car, my phone buzzing with a text from Pete. Installation complete. You'll want to see the footage from today. That evening, Erica came home at her usual time, claiming she'd been in meetings all afternoon. She showered immediately, using antibacterial soap, another sign she was trying to wash away evidence of her condition. "How was your day?" she asked over dinner, her voice artificially bright. "Interesting. I had to make some calls about Grant Wallace's medical condition. Apparently, it's more contagious than we initially thought." Erica's fork clattered against her plate. "Contagious? Oh, yes. We're recommending that anyone who's had close contact with Grant get tested, especially intimate contacts. The condition can cause serious complications if left untreated." The color drained from Erica's face. "What kind of complications?" "Scarring, permanent discoloration. In severe cases, the lesions can become infected and require surgical intervention." I kept my voice clinical, professional. "We've already contacted his wife. She's coming in for testing tomorrow." Erica excused herself and disappeared into the bathroom. I heard the shower running again, followed by the sound of her frantically scrubbing her skin. When she emerged, red-faced and raw from overwashing, I was waiting in the bedroom with Grant's medical file. "Erica, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me." She sat on the edge of the bed, towel clutched around her body. "What? Have you had any close contact with Grant Wallace recently? Any situation where you might have been exposed to his skin condition?" The question hung in the air between us like a diagnosis waiting to be confirmed. Erica's eyes darted around the room, looking anywhere but at me. It's not what you think." "So there has been contact." Tears started flowing down her cheeks. "Alex, please, let me explain." "Explain what?" "How you've been meeting Grant at the Riverside Motel every Thursday for the past 2 months. How you lied about the work retreat. How you've been using his prescription medication." Her face crumpled. "How did you—" "I'm a doctor, Erica. I notice things. Like the fact that you're showing early symptoms of Grant's dermatitis. Like the fact that you've been showering with antibacterial soap. Like the fact that you've been lying to me for months." She tried to reach for my hand, but I pulled away. "Alex, please. It was a mistake. It didn't mean anything." "A mistake that lasted 2 months? A mistake that included a romantic getaway disguised as a work retreat? How do you know about—" "Because I know everything, Erica. I know about room 237. I know about Grant's Thursday business trips. I know that Linda Wallace is getting tested for his condition tomorrow. And when she does, she's going to want to know exactly who else has been exposed." Erica's sobs filled the room. "What are you going to do?" I stood up and walked to the door. "I'm going to treat this condition the way it needs to be treated, with complete exposure and aggressive intervention." "What does that mean?" "It means tomorrow, everyone in Millbrook is going to know exactly what kind of infection you and Grant have been spreading." I left her crying in the bedroom and went to my office to review Pete's surveillance footage. The video quality was crystal clear, showing Erica and Grant entering room 237 together, staying for exactly 2 hours, then leaving separately. But the footage was just the beginning. Tomorrow, the real treatment would start. And like all effective treatments, it was going to be very, very painful. Linda Wallace arrived at my office at 8 a.m. sharp, her face drawn with worry and suspicion. Jamie had scheduled her as my first appointment, and I'd prepared everything carefully. "Dr. Harper, thank you for seeing me so quickly. When your nurse called about Grant's condition being contagious, I had to know." Linda was a petite woman with graying hair and worried eyes. She'd been Grant's high school sweetheart, and their marriage had been considered one of Millbrook's success stories. Until now. "Of course, Linda. Let's start with some questions about Grant's recent behavior. Has he mentioned any new contacts? Anyone he might have been in close proximity with?" Linda's hands twisted in her lap. "That's just it, Dr. Harper. He's been so secretive lately. All these mysterious business trips, working late, taking calls in private. And yesterday, when I asked him about his skin condition, he got defensive." I made notes on her chart, keeping my expression neutral. "Has he mentioned any work colleagues he's been spending extra time with? Perhaps someone from his office?" "Well, there's Erica Harper, your wife, actually. Grant talks about her quite a bit. Says they've been working closely on some big project. I see. And when did you first notice changes in Grant's condition? About 3 months ago. The rashes got worse, and he started showering more frequently, sometimes twice a day. He claimed it was doctor's orders, but when I asked which doctor, he got evasive. I nodded sympathetically. Linda, I need to be direct with you. Grant's condition is indeed contagious through intimate contact. If he's been exposed to new triggers or has been in contact with others who might carry the infection, we need to identify all potential exposures. Linda's face went pale. Are you saying Grant might have been intimate with someone else? I'm saying we need to test anyone who's shown symptoms. Has Grant mentioned if any of his colleagues have developed similar rashes? Actually, yes. He mentioned that Erica had been asking about skin treatments. Said she'd developed some kind of allergic reaction recently. The pieces clicked into place in Linda's mind. I could see the exact moment she understood what I was implying. Dr. Harper, are you telling me that my husband gave his skin condition to your wife? I'm telling you that we need to run some tests and trace all possible contacts. But Linda, this type of transmission typically requires very close, prolonged contact. Linda stood up abruptly. I need to make some phone calls. After she left, I sat in my office reviewing the morning's work. By noon, Linda Wallace would be making inquiries. By evening, the gossip network would be in full swing. At 11 a.m., my phone rang. It was Grant Wallace. Dr. Harper, I need to see you immediately. There's been some kind of misunderstanding about my medical condition. What kind of misunderstanding, Grant? My wife seems to think I've been spreading some kind of infection. She's asking questions about Erica, and I need you to clarify that my condition isn't really contagious. I smiled grimly. I'm afraid I can't do that, Grant. Your condition is quite contagious under the right circumstances. Perhaps you should come in so we can discuss your recent exposures. My recent? What are you talking about? Grant, I think you know exactly what I'm talking about. Room 237 at the Riverside Motel. Thursday afternoons. 2-week business retreats that weren't really business. The silence on the other end of the line stretched for nearly 30 seconds. I don't know what you're implying, but I'm not implying anything. I'm stating facts. You've been having an affair with my wife, and in the process, you've transmitted your skin condition to her. Now we need to manage the medical and social consequences. You can't prove anything. Actually, I can. I have medical evidence, photographic documentation, and witness statements. But more importantly, Grant, your wife now knows. And in about 6 hours, so will everyone else in Millbrook. I hung up and called Pete. How's our surveillance project going? Better than expected. I've got footage going back 8 weeks. But Doc, you might want to see what happened this morning. What do you mean? Grant showed up at the motel at 10 a.m., alone. Sat in his car for 20 minutes, then drove to your house. He's been parked across the street for the past hour. I looked out my office window toward the street. Sure enough, Grant's silver BMW was visible in the distance. Is he still there? Yep. And Doc? Erica just pulled into your driveway. This could get interesting. I locked my office and drove home quickly. Grant's car was gone, but Erica's Honda sat in our driveway, and I could see her pacing in our living room through the front window. She met me at the door, her face streaked with tears and red with anger. How could you do this to me? She screamed. Linda Wallace called me at work, accusing me of sleeping with her husband. She said you told her I had Grant's skin condition. I told her the medical facts. You do have Grant's condition. You have been sleeping with her husband. These aren't accusations, Erica. They're diagnoses. You had no right to violate patient confidentiality. I had every right to trace a contagious condition to its source. That's standard medical protocol. Erica slammed her purse down on the kitchen counter. This is about revenge, isn't it? You want to humiliate me. I want to treat a serious infection. The fact that the treatment involves public exposure is just good medicine. My phone buzzed with a text from Pete. Grant's back at the motel. Looks like he's drinking in his car. Erica, where were you supposed to meet Grant today? She looked startled. What? It's Thursday. Room 237. Was that the plan? Her silence was answer enough. He's there now, waiting for you. But something tells me you won't be showing up. Alex, please. We can work this out. Nobody else has to know. Everyone already knows. Linda's been making calls all morning. Mrs. Lavelle saw you at the motel last week. The pharmacist knows you've been using Grant's prescription medication. The only person in Millbrook who doesn't know is probably the mailman. and I'm sure he'll catch up by dinner. Erica collapsed into a chair, sobbing. What do you want from me? I want you to understand that actions have consequences. You chose to have an affair. You chose to lie to me for months. You chose to expose yourself to a contagious condition. Now you get to live with the results. And what about you? Don't you care that our marriage is over? I looked at the woman I'd loved for 22 years, the woman who'd thrown away everything we'd built together for Thursday afternoon trysts with a married real estate agent. Our marriage ended the first time you walked into room 237. I'm just making the diagnosis official. My phone rang. It was Jamie. Dr. Harper, you need to know that Grant Wallace just called. He's demanding that you retract your statements about his condition being contagious. He says he's going to file a complaint with the medical board. Let him try. Everything I've said is medically accurate and properly documented. There's more, Linda Wallace called back. She wants to schedule appointments for their twin daughters. Apparently Grant's been in close contact with them recently, and she's worried about exposure. I closed my eyes. Grant's daughters were 16 years old. If Linda was worried about their exposure to their father's condition, it meant she suspected Grant of even more inappropriate behavior. Schedule them for tomorrow morning. And Jamie, call social services. This situation may be more complicated than we initially thought. After I hung up, Erica stared at me with a mixture of fear and disbelief. What's happening to us, Alex? We're experiencing the natural progression of an untreated infection. It spreads, it gets worse, and eventually, it destroys everything it touches. Is there any way to fix this? I looked at my wife, sitting in our kitchen, crying over the consequences of her own choices. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Some infections can be cured, Erica, but this one is terminal. The town square erupted in chaos the next morning. I was having coffee at Maria's cafe when Linda Wallace marched across the park, her face set in grim determination. Behind her walked her twin daughters, Emma and Sophie, both looking confused and embarrassed. Grant was already there, sitting on a bench near the fountain, apparently waiting for them. When he saw his family approaching, he stood up quickly, his hands raised in a placating gesture. Linda, please, let's discuss this privately. Privately? Linda's voice carried across the entire square. Like you discussed your affair privately? Like you exposed our family to God knows what diseases privately? Half the town seemed to materialize from nowhere. Mrs. Lavelle emerged from the bakery. The postal workers stopped their rounds. Even the teenagers hanging out by the war memorial turned to watch the drama unfold. It's not what you think, Grant said, his voice desperate. It's exactly what I think, Linda shot back. Dr. Harper explained everything. The contagious skin condition, the need to trace intimate contacts, the fact that your lover has been using your prescription medication. I sipped my coffee and watched the show. This was better than I'd planned. Emma, one of Grant's daughters, stepped forward. Dad, what is Mom talking about? What lover? Grant's face went white. Emma, this is between your mother and me. No, it's not, Linda said firmly. It's between you and the entire town, because that's how many people you've potentially exposed to this infection. Sophie, the other twin, looked around at the growing crowd. Mom, can we please go home? Everyone's staring. Let them stare, Linda replied. Let them see what kind of man your father really is. My phone buzzed with a text from Pete. Are you seeing this? It's like a live-action soap opera. Grant tried one more time to salvage the situation. Linda, I made a mistake, but there's no need to air our personal business in public. Personal business? Linda's voice rose another octave. You call exposing our family to a contagious disease personal business? You call having an affair with a married woman personal business? Mrs. Lavelle had moved closer, clearly enjoying every word. The bakery owner stepped outside to listen. Even the teenagers had put away their phones to watch real-life drama unfold. Who is she? Emma demanded. Who's the woman? Grant looked around desperately, his eyes finally landing on me sitting at the cafe. Our gazes met across the square, and I raised my coffee cup in a mock toast. It's Erica Harper, he said quietly. The crowd turned to look at me. I stood up slowly, walked to the edge of the cafe's outdoor seating area, and addressed the gathering. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to clarify something. As a medical professional, I have a duty to trace contagious conditions to their source and identify all potential exposures. Mr. Wallace's skin condition is indeed transmissible through intimate contact, and my wife has unfortunately contracted it. The murmur that ran through the crowd was like electricity. Furthermore, I continued, this transmission appears to have occurred during regular meetings at the Riverside Motel over a period of several months. Grant tried to interrupt. Dr. Harper, you can't. I can and I will. Public health requires transparency about infectious diseases. Anyone who has been in close contact with either Mr. Wallace or my wife should seek medical evaluation. Linda Wallace turned to face the crowd. My husband has been having an affair with Erica Harper for months. They've been meeting at that disgusting motel every Thursday, and now my entire family has been exposed to his skin condition. I'm filing for divorce, and I'm pressing charges for reckless endangerment. The crowd erupted in whispers and gasps. This was the biggest scandal Millbrook had seen in decades. Emma started crying. Dad, how could you do this to us? Sophie put her arm around her sister. We're going home with Mom. Don't follow us. The twins walked away with Linda, leaving Grant standing alone in the middle of the square, surrounded by dozens of his neighbors and former friends. Grant looked around at the hostile faces, then back at me. This isn't over, Harper. Actually, it is, I replied calmly. Your condition has been exposed, treated, and contained. The infection stops here. Grant stormed off toward his car, but Mrs. Lavelle called after him. Grant Wallace, you should be ashamed of yourself. That poor Harper girl and your own family. Disgraceful. The crowd began to disperse, but the damage was done. By noon, every person in Millbrook would know about Grant and Erica's affair. By evening, the story would have spread to neighboring towns. I finished my coffee and walked back to my office, where Jamie was waiting with a stack of messages. Dr. Harper, you've had 17 phone calls in the past hour. 10 reporters, 4 lawyers, 2 medical board investigators, and Erica. What did Erica want? She's at home packing. Says she's going to stay with her sister in Boston until this blows over. And the reporters? They want interviews about the medical ethics of exposing patient information during a public health crisis. I smiled. Schedule interviews with 3 of them. Make sure they understand that everything I've disclosed falls within the guidelines for tracing contagious diseases. What about the medical board investigators? Tell them I'll cooperate fully. My documentation is complete, my actions were medically justified, and I've followed all protocols for infectious disease management. Jamie nodded and started making calls. I retreated to my office and pulled out Grant's file one more time. Every detail was documented. Every treatment was justified. Every disclosure was legally defensible. My phone rang. It was Pete. Doc, you need to see the latest surveillance footage. What now? Grant went back to the motel after the scene in the square. He's been drinking in his car for 2 hours. And get this, Erica showed up 20 minutes ago. I felt a surge of anger. Even after everything that had happened, they were still meeting. Are they together now? No, that's the interesting part. Erica tried to get into his car, but Grant wouldn't let her. They're having a screaming match in the parking lot. And Doc? There are other people there now. Looks like some of the town gossips followed them. This was perfect. A public confrontation at the scene of their affair, with witnesses. Pete, are you recording this? Every second. You want me to send it to you? Send it to the reporters Jamie's scheduling interviews with. This is evidence of ongoing reckless behavior. I hung up and leaned back in my chair. The treatment was working better than I'd hoped. Grant and Erica's infection was being exposed to full sunlight, and like most diseases, it couldn't survive the exposure. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Dr. Harper, this is Linda Wallace. Thank you for having the courage to tell me the truth. Grant moved out an hour ago. The divorce papers will be filed Monday. Another text arrived from Emma Wallace. Dr. Harper, I'm sorry about what my dad did to your family. We had no idea. And then a third text, this one from Erica. Alex, please call me. We need to talk. I deleted Erica's message without reading it twice. There was nothing left to discuss. The diagnosis was complete. The treatment was successful. And the prognosis was clear. Some infections could be cured. Others had to be cut out entirely. This was definitely the second type. The final confrontation came 3 days later at Murphy's bar. I was having dinner with Pete when Grant Wallace stumbled through the door, clearly drunk and looking for a fight. The bar went quiet as he spotted me in the corner booth. There he is, Grant slurred loudly. The good doctor who destroyed my life. Every conversation in the bar stopped. Murphy himself stepped out from behind the bar, ready to intervene if necessary. Grant, maybe you should go home, Pete said calmly. Home? Grant laughed bitterly. I don't have a home anymore. My wife kicked me out. My daughters won't speak to me. My business partners are distancing themselves. All because Dr. Perfect here decided to play God. I remained seated, keeping my voice level. I didn't destroy your life, Grant. I just diagnosed the condition that was already destroying it. Grant staggered toward our table. You violated doctor-patient confidentiality. You ruined my marriage. You turned my own children against me. I followed proper medical protocol for tracing a contagious disease. Your marriage was already ruined the moment you started sleeping with my wife. And your children turned against you because of your actions, not mine. You self-righteous bastard, Grant snarled. You think you're so much better than everyone else. The bar's patrons were watching intently now. This was the confrontation everyone had been waiting for since the scandal broke. I think I'm better than a man who cheats on his wife and exposes multiple people to infectious diseases, I replied. But that's not exactly a high bar to clear. Grant's face turned red with rage. You want to know the truth about your precious wife? She came to me. She said you were boring, that you never paid attention to her, that she needed someone who could make her feel alive. Pete tensed beside me, ready to intervene, but I held up a hand to stop him. And you were happy to help with that, I said calmly. Even though you're married, even though you knew the risks, even though you were exposing both our families to your condition. It's just a skin rash. It's a contagious disease that you spread through reckless behavior. And now everyone knows exactly what kind of man you are. Grant lunged forward, but his drunken coordination failed him. He stumbled and crashed into an empty table, sending glasses flying. Murphy stepped forward. That's enough, Grant. Time for you to leave. This isn't over, Grant said, struggling to his feet. I'll sue you for malpractice. I'll file complaints with every medical board in the state. Go ahead, I replied. My documentation is complete, my actions were justified, and my conscience is clear. Can you say the same? Grant looked around the bar at the hostile faces surrounding him. These were his neighbors, his former friends, his business associates, and now they all knew what he'd done. You destroyed everything, he said quietly. No, Grant, you did that yourself. I just made sure everyone could see the damage. Grant stumbled toward the door, but turned back one more time. What about Erica? Are you going to destroy her too? Erica destroyed herself the moment she walked into room 237. I'm just making sure the infection doesn't spread any further. After Grant left, the bar slowly returned to normal conversation levels. Pete ordered another round of beers. That was brutal, he said. That was necessary. Some infections require aggressive treatment. What happens now? Now, the healing begins. My phone buzzed with a text from Jamie. Dr. Harper, Erica's sister called. Erica's been admitted to a psychiatric facility in Boston. Apparently she had some kind of breakdown. I wasn't surprised. The public humiliation,